How y'all doing? This is a response and some comments on Gavin Ortlund's Iconoclast controversy. Hey y'all, so up front, I'm a fan of Gavin Ortlund, but I'm also a Catholic. So the current controversy and drama going on between him and the Catholic Answers crew caught my attention. Gavin is arguing against icon veneration and saying that any system that attests to apostolic consistency should agree with him, as the church fathers he has read are aniconic. Now, to me, two common apologetical hot topics have never bothered me: the problem of evil and praying through saints with the use of icons or art to represent those saints. In the first case, my life has not been Pollyannish. I have seen suffering and death since I was a small child. In the second case, I grew up Catholic, and I have had a strong respect for Eastern Orthodoxy since I became aware of that tradition in my late teens and early adulthood. So when the initial conflict started, I didn't care. Even Gavin's original video I dismissed. As San Sona said in his response, there is an easy and ready-made answer for the lay Catholic, an answer I will get into later, towards the end of this video. But Catholics, Orthodox, and Anglicans panicked, because unlike James White or Todd Farrell and other anti-Catholic apologists who go hyperbolic and use every single informal fallacy known to man, what makes Gavin's argument so scary to online celebrity apologists is that his objections were reasonable and logical. He did not rely on emotional appeal, or simple fear of fire and brimstone, or out of context piece together cut and paste Bible quotes to make his points. He went to our sources, the church fathers and the ecumenical councils. Well done, Gavin. So does that mean that Gavin is correct and that all of us are wrong? Well, let's look at where he does have a point. There are myriad real-life examples of Catholics taking veneration too far, of people praying to saints to win the lottery, or praying to a saint for their favorite sports team to win a game. This is a problem. In my community and in my culture, there is the problem of the brujandeja. Men and women who think they can invoke the use of saints for magic, to make someone fall in love with you, to cure an illness, or to fight the evil eye. And don't pretend or deny these issues exist. We do not live in the ideal binary world that many apologists paint. You've seen this girl at church. She's wearing a necklace or a bracelet or has a tattoo with the eye of protection on her, an eye to ward off the evil eye. Do not lie to yourself and don't lie to God. We know this is a problem in the church. We have seen an aunt or uncle's house with an altar dedicated to a saint full of melted candles, and there is Lady Death, or some other illicit, heretical, or blasphemous so-called folk saint. But we have an easy counter. We say in response to that particular objection to the Catholic faith, that is not official church practice. And this is where Gavin's genius lays. He is not going after the fringe occult practitioner who happens to call themselves Catholic. Gavin is going after one of our councils. A council Orthodox, Anglican, Catholic, and even Lutherans accept as authoritative. And here is where I come in. I would like to thank my YouTube buddy, Yan, for attempting to throw my opinion into the mix and given me the title of level-headed. Thank you, brother. Here's what I said that earned that compliment. I don't like the comments that are calling you, Gavin, dishonest. It reminds me of when atheists say I am obfuscating when I give an explanation instead of a simple yes or no answer. You have a point of view which you are defending. You have your own opinion which you are expressing. That is not cherry picking. And that is not dishonesty. It is not dishonesty to disagree with a source, an authority, or an interlocutor. I know some Catholics are throwing that accusation at you currently over the iconoclasm argument. Sorry about that. You are allowed to disagree. If you didn't disagree, you wouldn't be Protestant. You'd be a Catholic. One of the things I have not appreciated about both Christian apologists in general and Catholic Answers apologists specifically is that they are so convinced that they are correct that if you honestly disagree with them, even after they give their explanation, they simply think that you are being dishonest, speaking in bad faith, and not that their explanation is somehow lacking. And just to be clear, Gavin, I do disagree with you, but that doesn't mean I think you are dishonest. And the arrogance of some apologists, especially celebrity apologists who are defending the same position I hold, is disheartening. That was my statement. And I have personal experience encountering this arrogance myself. A while back on my channel, I read from the Liturgy of the Hours, where a church father explained the soul as energy that animated the body. Then one of my viewers called into Catholic Answers Live while Jimmy Akin was answering questions as the guest. The caller, my viewer, wanted clarification on what I had read as an interesting idea. Jimmy took this opportunity to disagree with what I had read. Now, I'm fine with Jimmy having an opinion that is different than mine, as it is permissible in the Catholic Church for lay believers to disagree with each other on non-dogmatic matter. But Jimmy, as he did with Gavin, did not speak as if giving his opinion, but spoke as if one speaking from authority. He not only said the whole idea was mistaken, but that whomever this listener, caller, heard this from, I lost more than just a viewer on that day. I lost subscribers on what was then, as is now, a still growing channel. Jimmy's offhanded comment set my channel back years and made me lose credibility in the eyes of my audience. Problem is, Jimmy was not disagreeing with me. He was not even correcting a mistake I may have made in my theology or in my explanation. He was disagreeing with what I read. He was disagreeing with a church father's writings as they appear in the Liturgy of the Hours. That is, in the official prayer of the Catholic Church. Years later, for a different caller, on a similar topic, Jimmy would mildly backtrack and be more charitable in his answer. He would explain his position more fully, that identifying the soul with anima or animus would put us in potential conflict with the theology that states God is pure simplicity, meaning absolute perfection, and that soul as energy implies an intellectual assent to God as energy, as in the energy essence distinctions of Gregory of Palmas. which conflicts with officially accepted church teachings taught by Aquinas and Augustine. Eastern and Western division controversy. But that explanation came years after my channel and reputation suffered. Unfortunately, Jimmy Akin, Catholic Answers, and their on-air apologist do act like an authority. A second magisterium or shadow USCCB. For many lay, and even some religious, including priests, they wield their popularity as authority. They, meaning the Catholic Answers apostolate and the Catholic Answers staff. Another example, this time not related to me, of Catholic Answers wielding their popularity as a secondary or unofficial authority in the American Catholic community, is when I heard a listener call in to their Catholic Answers live show asking why the Oxford Study Bible disagreed with the guest of that day on the literalness of the Moses narrative. The guest and the host chided back that regardless of the presence of the Nile obstate or the imperator signed by a bishop, that the listener should get a better Bible, such as the Ignatius Study Bible. This is egregious and reckless behavior on behalf of Catholic Answers apologists. They, like they do not speak for the church as a whole. They cannot rule a Bible that the church has labeled as acceptable for teaching and learning as unacceptable or inaccurate. This gets to my next complaint. I feel that it was unfair for Jimmy to call Gavin dishonest, and it was even more wrong for Trent not to defend Gavin against that accusation in that same video. Gavin has the right to be biased and defend his own position. Trent's video took days to film and edit, according to Trent himself. Trent did not have to include in the published video that unmerited criticism against Gavin. If he didn't want to correct Jimmy for saying it, then he should have just edited it out. This again is another example of the uncharitable judgments celebrity Catholic Answers on-air apologists seem to feel all too comfortable pronouncing. Then there is an issue with Trent Horn as well. Trent has complained about when Protestants argue like atheists. Well, calling Gavin dishonest for what may very well be a valid argument based on his sources from the church fathers he cites is like when atheists call it obfuscation when we, Christians and Catholics, give an explanation to what they feel should be a yes or no question. They accuse us of dishonesty when we give an answer that they didn't like, that pushes against their narrative. And Gavin is pushing against the consensus of the Catholic and Orthodox argument for veneration. Now, this could be a black swan situation where missing evidence that he has not been presented with could change the equation. But based on his interpretation of the sources, if they are indeed prime sources, the church fathers seemed to support his conclusion. But we shouldn't flip the table yet, especially when we have a trump card. But you may say, what about sola scriptura? What about proving our stance from Maccabees? Okay, let's look at what happens when Muslims call us dishonest, when we go with the Bible over what the Quran says. There is an impasse. They go so far as to say that we changed our Bibles to make it fit what we want to say. And they get this argumentation from the Quran and the Hadith themselves. But that is not what is happening here. He is not limiting himself to so-called Protestant sources. So this accusation is a red herring that shows fear on the part of the apologist facing Gavin and facing Gavin's claim. claims. So how do we get out of this trap Gavin has laid for us? Simple. This is my objection, an argument against Gavin's position. For Catholics, we have 2 outs for this issue, or 3, depending on how you divide it. We have the concept of doctrinal development, and we have the Pope and the Magisterium. Then finally, we have holy tradition or sacred tradition. That's tradition with a capital T. It is very easy for any Catholic with the internet and the Vatican's website to read through the first 7 ecumenical councils. If we use language in the normal, common way that most people use it, we can see icon veneration and the veneration of saints, a related issue, develop in the ancient church. We can see the pushback in the iconoclast controversy, and we can see the final acceptance of the practice in Nicaea too. But we have a trump card beyond that. At the end of the day, we, as Catholics, believe that the magisterium, that is the bishops and the Pope, are guided by the Holy Spirit on matters of dogma. So once they rule that a practice or tradition is acceptable, that is the final word, until or unless they say otherwise. Therefore, for Catholics, if the Pope, in union with the magisterium, rules that a practice or tradition is licit, then that's it. Licit and valid are 2 canonical legal terms in the Catholic faith that I do not know enough about to expand on here in this video. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching.